movement of the Pilgrims was due to religious persecution. In England, where they were from, they were not allowed to believe what they wanted. They were forced to believe in the Church of England, which was established by Henry VIII. All other religions were not allowed, and they were in danger of being jailed or even executed for believing in other religions. Therefore, Pilgrims decided to move. What happened was that they actually made a group of their own called Scrooby. The reason where that name came from was because it started from a small village called Scrooby, and they were called the Scrooby Congregation. By February 12, 1609, the people of the Scrooby Congregation received permission to move to Leiden, Holland. And they decided to move there, and they spent around 10 years there. However, they did not spend all their life in Leiden, Holland, and decided to move out of Holland as a whole. This is due to three main reasons. One, Leiden and all of Holland started to have a growing lack of religious tolerance. Second, as immigrants, they did not have the same opportunity as other residents, and therefore did not have high-paying jobs. Thirdly, there had been news of Spain going to war with Holland, and they did not want to be part of that, and decided to move back to England. They moved to England not in the hopes of living there, but to move from England to another place considered the New World, which is now known as America. They arrived in a British port called Southampton on a boat called Speedwell, and from there they transferred to another ship called a ship that's very well known today, the Mayflower, and they moved to their new life and what they believed as new opportunities and a place where they can celebrate their own religion without any persecution. By the end of 1607, people in Amsterdam were faced with religious toleration. This meant that everyone could obey whichever religion they wished to. Therefore, Pilgrims chose Amsterdam, Holland as a place that they would move to and move away from England into Holland. However, they faced many difficulties along the road, and they were even jailed at one time. And they also had to arrive separately, and women, children, and the men had to come separately. However, by the end of 1608, they were all united in Amsterdam. When the Pilgrims moved into America, the Plymouth colony, they initially had a lot of trouble. They did not know how to cope with the harsh winters or didn't know which crops to grow. Therefore, during the winter of 1620, half of them did not make it to the summer. Out of the 99 settlers that came, only 57 of them had survived. Thankfully, the Wampanoag Indians were there to help them after. Squanto, who was an English-speaking Native American, helped translate and assist them. He taught them which crops to grow, such as maize, which is corn, and he also taught them how to build houses that was suited to the land. Therefore, later they had a gathering called the Thanksgiving, which is celebrated to this day, and where they all gathered together, the settlers and the Native Americans all gathered together to celebrate with food and all the things they had accomplished together.
So there were many epidemics in Europe, and as a result, the Europeans developed a stronger immune system than the Native Americans. And when the Pilgrims arrived in America, many of the European diseases that they had with them were passed on to the Native Americans, and many of the fatal diseases that they had with them were smallpox, spotted fever, typhoid, and the measles. And one of the Pilgrim leaders, named Malcolmus the Elder, actually gave thanks to God for destroying the heathen savages to make way for the better growth. And in this case, as the better growth, he meant the Europeans, or more specifically, the Pilgrims. Tensions grew between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans because of the Pilgrims' greed for land and their conquering of the Native Americans' lands. And eventually, in 1675, a war broke out between the colonists and the Native Americans called the King Philip's War. And during this war, the English colonists basically had an upper hand due to their superior military powers and their resources. England also continuously gave their support for the English colonists, which eventually led to the English colonists' victory, and the Native Americans became a minority in their own land.
When you think of a few key ideas about today's United States of America, what do you think of? You think of the political side, yes, more specifically, self-government. But what encouraged such self-government from the start? Well then, let's go back to the beginning. The Pilgrims, the Puritans, and other settlers wanted a long-term commitment that would help mold their society. That commitment was the Mayflower Compact. The Compact was the first document of governance of the United States of America. The Compact encouraged people's core values, rights, and the political aspects. This is how self-government was encouraged. And the Compact started to become a major influential document. The core values that the Compact emphasized later on influenced a vital document of the United States that gives the basic rights for the citizens today, which is the Bill of Rights. Overall, the Mayflower Compact was definitely a necessity for the development of what we call today's United States of America. It was a major influence throughout the political values and the Pilgrims' commitment for their unification.
The movement of the Pilgrims left many impacts that last to this day. The lives of Native Americans were affected both positively and negatively, and the lives of settlers themselves changed in many unexpected ways. Also, politics of the time was heavily affected by this movement and led to many things that are seen to this day.